Good morning, everyone. This is Ajit Gopalakrishnan. I'm the Chief Performance Officer for the Connecticut State Department of Education, and I have the pleasure of being joined by Abe Christ, Bureau Chief in the Performance Office as well. Thank you, Abe, for joining, and most importantly, thanks to all of you for joining this webinar with us. The format of this webinar, which is focused on assessment and accountability in 2021, will be for Abe and I to just go through a few slides, probably 20 to 30 minutes, just sort of give you some high-level overview. But our goal is to really devote the rest of the time to your questions so that we can address those questions to the best of our ability as things stand today. We will do the Q&A portion through the hand raise feature, which will allow you to raise your hand. We will then unmute you, and then you'll be able to verbally state your question. The hand raise feature is currently not visible, but will be visible when we open that section of the webinar. So again, thank you so much for joining. I know everything is moving at breakneck speed, and that you didn't have much notice for this webinar, but we're thrilled with the response to it. Over 160 people are in attendance. So thank you very much for making the time to be with us this morning. Next slide, please. This webinar is the first in our Performance Matters webinar series. For many of you, you know that in a normal year, this would be the time frame for the Performance Matters Forum. And last year's one was at the Convention Center in Hartford, over 500-600 people in attendance, lots of energy. This year, like everything else, is different. And we have chosen to keep the concept of the forum, but really move it to a webinar series. In addition to this webinar, there are 10 other webinars scheduled over the next few weeks. And don't be surprised if we throw in a few more in there, depending on ideas that come up. So again, just wanted to mention that this is the first of a series of webinars. And you should have the flyer for the series, but the link is in here, and we'll make sure we upload the link in the GoToWebinar as well so that you can download it, or at a minimum, we'll email it to you after the session. So thank you very much again for joining us. Next slide. One thing actually before I get into this, in the webinar series, there is a webinar. I just wanted to call out one particular webinar for next week. It is also on Thursday, and it's one focused on attendance. And in that session, we're actually partnering with our friends and colleagues at DCF and also Hedy Chang from Attendance Works, who will be at that session. So if you haven't noticed that session for the 29th of October, please do so, and we encourage you to register for that as well. All right, so the purpose of this session is to basically discuss the memorandum that went out a week ago, and you could see a screenshot of that memo there. And really the purpose here in this webinar is to really just discuss that and explain it orally and then take your questions. We want to really affirm our commitment to our state assessments and then describe what our thinking is around school and district accountability for this year, the year that we're in, 2021 year. We'll also get into some initial guidance around administrating our summative assessments. And like I've said, the purpose of this is really to devote time to answering your questions. Next slide, please. I have to say that I am in awe of what Connecticut leaders and educators like yourselves have done over the past several months. This time period has not been easy on any of us, but I have just been amazed and just in awe of the amazing work that educators have done. We went remote suddenly in the spring, in the middle of March. You you know, you just shifted after a couple of weeks of planning to full-time remote instruction. Who would have thought that we'd be doing that at any given time? But you just did an amazing job making that switch, continuing to keep students engaged and learning. We've of course had our challenges, but just the way in which we all shifted was just impressive and amazing. And I'm, again, kudos to all of you. You then developed multiple plans for reopening. Worked over the summer. You're dealing not only with educational issues, but also health issues. I mean, we've all become familiar with a whole bunch of health metrics and protocols that we have to implement. It's not only about how good protocols for teaching our kids, educating our kids. We're now dealing with safety and spacing and all those things that come with ensuring the health and safety of our students. And you've managed to keep all those things in play as well. And you've reopened in so many different models, right? I mean, in person, hybrid, some fully remote, allowing students the chance to be fully remote, dealing with all kinds of technology challenges, deploying new hardware, software, remote learning, internet connectivity. I mean, everybody has pitched in to try to solve all these things. Supporting your teachers. This is a new world, obviously, for all of them. And how do they navigate the technology, and how do they now suddenly become experts in distance teaching or hybrid teaching when you have some students who are remote and some who are in person? All kinds of new technology have been deployed. And also, I just want to applaud the resilience of our students too, who have stuck with us and who have stuck with the learning. I have two in high school and one in college. They're all, my high school kids are fully in person now, and my college kid is fully remote. But just seeing their resilience going from hybrid remote days to hybrid days and now fully in person for my high school kids, just their resilience has been impressive as well. And all this while, you're now trying to shift and accelerate learning, get to on-grade instruction while remaining flexible, because we don't know where the health metrics may shift, and we have to be ready to be flexible, ready to switch if necessary. So again, just impressive. I'm just so amazed by all the really super quality and thoughtful work that we've all done. So last spring, when you know everything went fully remote suddenly, canceling our state assessments that were scheduled to start, canceling accountability was the right thing to do. And the federal government really partnered with us, partnered with all states to put out a very streamlined process for states to request those waivers. We got a response within an hour, and an affirmative response within an hour. I mean, that's like unheard of in our discussion. So it's that level of partnership that we still have with the U.S. Department of Ed. But it was the right thing to do to cancel assessment and accountability at that time frame. We then worked with some of you and with our colleagues in the academic office area to put out guidance on sensible assessment practices, right? So we came out and we said, you know, the focus during this year, the 2021 year, should be, at least during the year, should be on small scale, fine grain assessments. We opened up our Smarter Balanced interim assessments, our NGSS interim assessments early, much earlier than we normally would. Kudos to Abe and team and our friends at Cambium who have partnered with this to make that possible, and we're seeing increased usage of those assessments this year, which is really good, because it really provides actionable information for teachers, and that's really what the focus really needs to be during the year, so that we can help with teaching and learning. And not only that, we also loosened browser restrictions for the remote administration of these assessments, such that students could take without the secure browser those interim assessments. We facilitated remote administration of those assessments. So we've taken some steps to that front. And we also know that this 2021 year is not like, you know, we didn't just go back to normal at the start of 2021 year, far from it. We've got all different models going on, kids learning with different approaches, teachers teaching in different approaches, some kids suddenly switching from being in person to quarantining for 2 weeks because of a potential exposure. staff doing the same. You are just adjusting and managing it so beautifully to try to keep the focus on ensuring student health and safety, but also on learning, and that's really the key. And you've managed to sort of juggle that in such a beautiful way, and we really appreciate you for that. Our state assessments, to sort of step back, our state assessments are, like we say in the memorandum, are guideposts to equity. They are our standard measure that ultimately tell us how we're doing, how all our students are doing, regardless of grade, regardless of language, English language ability, disability, socioeconomic status. Ultimately, our state assessments are our guidepost that tell us how students are learning on the standards. So our promise to our students of a high quality education is backed up by our state assessments, which actually do tell us how we're doing. And for this year, in addition to the sensible assessment guidance, our friends in the academic office have also put out guidance on prioritizing the standards and how to, we can't not teach certain standards. That's not the point, but it's more about how do you emphasize certain standards perhaps more during the instruction, and how do you weave certain standards in with other standards. So our plan for this year is to administer the state assessments as scheduled, all our state assessments, and that includes Smarter Balanced, NGSS, the alternate assessments in both ELA math and in science, the SAT when it comes to it at the end of the year, but also our kindergarten entrance inventory, our physical fitness, etc. Because again, if we truly believe that our state assessments are our guideposts to equity, then it is truly important that at the end of, especially this year, with so much variance that's happening in our educational delivery, that we actually have a sense of how our students are doing at the end of this year. There were many folks who advocated for a statewide assessment in the fall to, quote, measure COVID gap and things like that. And I have to tell you, we pushed back against that because our position was that now is not the time to do that. Now is the time to get kids back situated, learning, and teaching and learning, and that's what the focus should be. But when it comes to the end of the year, we are absolutely committed to our state assessments. And so from that standpoint, we are not only put out guidance with our academic friends on prioritizing the standards, but we've also adhering to the same blueprint. So the test blueprints are not going to change for this year. At least that's our plan for right now, that we are not going to change the test blueprints, because if we change the blueprints, then we won't be able to gauge extent of learning loss, if you will. We won't know how our students are doing in 2021 compared to 2019 and other prior years. So it is really important for us to keep the blueprint the same. But at the same time, we're going to be working to, and Abe's going to discuss some of this, remote administration and remote proctoring. Those efforts are underway because it's not just about our students who are coming in person. We really need to commit to assessing all students. And again, Abe will discuss this in a bit more detail in the slides ahead. But so we're definitely committed to our state assessments. We're also committed to reporting all available data to the extent feasible and defensible. And this includes all our assessment data. And I should mention that the assessments also include our ELP assessments, which begin sooner in the calendar cycle, as you all know, and Abe will discuss that as well in terms of our plans there. But it's not just our attendance data, but it's also assessment data, but it's also attendance, it's also discipline, it's also graduation. We think it's important to report those data publicly so that we can understand how our students are achieving and how they're growing, and how that might have been impacted by this pandemic. And I suspect there will be cases where we're doing well. And what are those things that we're doing well in spite of this crazy pandemic where that's helping our students learn? So we definitely want to administer the state assessments and learn from it. But having said all that commitment to administer the assessment, we are going to be advocating on your behalf, on our collective behalf, with the U.S. Department of Education to not implement formal school and district accountability as usual in 2021. So while we will report all these metrics, we don't believe it's appropriate to just go back and turn on the next generation accountability system report for 2021 and give out an accountability index and things like that. We don't believe that this is the year, 2021 is the year to do that. So while we are absolutely committed to administering the assessments, learning from it, reporting the data, publicly reporting the data, again, to the extent feasible and defensible, there's a lot to do, but we believe that it's not the year to do the formal accountability as we have known it. So just to be clear, that is our position, and we are actually in national discussions this week, and we have been making that point. There are several states that are thinking in a similar fashion, but right now that's not the federal stance. So I just want to be clear that we have to seek approval for that from the feds. There's no guarantee what they will do, but our position is that it is not the year to do accountability as usual. There's lots of other accountability that's happening already. Attendance accountability, technology accountability. Do kids have devices? Do they have internet connectivity? Are they coming to school? Are they engaged? And we're committed to administering that state assessment to see, are they learning? So I hope you see the balance that we're trying to strike here, which is to say that we think it's really important to administer the assessment, and for all students, not just some students, for all students. But it is not the year to turn on the accountability switch and go back to holding school and districts accountable in our usual manner, if you will. So with that, probably going on a little longer than I wanted to, but I just wanted you to hear my thinking here in as fully as possible. And I'm going to now turn it over to Abe to walk through the assessment administration aspects of this work. So Abe, take it away.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you for taking the time out of your days to attend the meeting today. We appreciate it. I hope I see almost 200 of you, so we appreciate you joining us for a few minutes to discuss some of the guidance that had come out on the 15th that Ajit mentioned. We're going to kind of cover some of the things that were mentioned, but also enhance some of the thoughts that were there too, because we've also learned subsequently about some of the things based on questions that have come in. So thanks Ajit for the recommendation or the introduction here, and I think you said a lot of the things that I was going to say, but I'm gonna repeat some of them as well. So first off, what assessments are given by our office? I don't want to go through every single one of these because you know them. These are all familiar to you. I do want to emphasize a couple things though. On this list is the SAT school day. This year, keep in mind that we are administering grade 11, just as we always do in the spring. We did have the optional administration in the fall. That was an option for students who had missed the assessment in March. Again, we still are game on for the spring. The other thing I want to mention is there are 3 assessments here that are not part of or that can be administered now. That would be the CTOS, the Connecticut Alternate Science Assessment, the CPFA, and then also the KEI. And then the third thing is I want to mention is that one of these assessments is also, we're right around the corner in terms of administration, Lost Links. We will be starting administration on January 4th. That window runs from January 4th to March 5th. All the other assessments start on about March 29th. Actually, they don't start on about, they actually start on March 29th, except for science, high school science, which would be a little bit earlier in February, and then obviously the SAT school days, which are separate days. Okay, so as I mentioned, Ajit covered some of these points already, but I'll echo them. All state assessments are expected to be administered for 2020, 2021. We recognize there will be some situations with an asterisk or whatever you want to call it, special situations. I'm going to talk about them in the next few slides, but generally speaking, we are on for all state assessments to be administered for 2021. Secondly, as outlined in the addendum 1 of the Adapt, Advance, Achieve, which was guidance delivered this past summer, I believe on July 27th. This one in particular was delivered on July 27th. And I'm just going to read right from the guidance here. You can read along with me. Students participating in a remote learning program will be expected to access statewide assessments in person unless assessments are available remotely. So what do we mean by remotely? That would be a situation where we're able to safely and securely administer a test in an at-home environment. And in the next couple slides, we'll talk a little bit about what that would look like and what assessments we're actually talking about. Okay, so in the event that remote tools are available, what is the recommended mode of administration for the spring? So students who are attending in person or hybrid, they would be tested at school. I think that's pretty straightforward, that's a given. Then for students who are learning remotely, your remote learners, the expectation is the administration would be in a school district setting where the students can be under the regular administration protocols. So remote learners would come in to school to be administered the test, much like, for instance, in the fall with our grade 12 students, remote learners came in to be assessed in the schools with the SAT. And then finally, for those students who are learning remotely and cannot attend an administration in a school or district setting, then a remote option can be used. And again, the remote option is an option. That doesn't mean it's optional. You know, Ajit emphasized, I emphasized a couple slides ago, we are administering assessments to all students in the spring this year. Okay, so what is the current status of the possible remote administrations? At the moment, this is as of today. As you all know, things are changing quickly, so this might change in the next month or so. But as of today, we are planning a remote administration for Lost Links. So for Lost Links, we would have a remote proctoring situation available. It is likely that when the window starts on January 4th, this will not be available. However, it will be something available towards the back end of the window. We've been having discussions about potentially even bumping the window back a little bit. It is a fluid situation, but the expectation is at the moment, Lost Links will be available for remote administration. Secondly, we are also doing some research in terms of administering Smarter Balanced and the NGSS standard assessment remotely using Cambium Assessment Inc.'s remote proctoring software. This would be something we would be piloting in the next next month likely. There are some hurdles right now. We have 8 districts lined up to pilot this tool. This remote proctoring tool that Cambium Assessment, formerly AIR, has built to securely and safely administer the tests remotely. I do want to mention that we are not the only state going out to give this a shot. I know there's states currently right now. I know, for instance, New Hampshire is administering interim assessments remotely using the remote proctoring tool, and we've heard very good things about this. So be on the lookout for pilot districts. We already have 8. If you're interested, drop me an email and we'd be happy to add you to the list. And then finally, as I mentioned on the first bullet there, this is an evolving situation. We're working hard to come up with these solutions for you. We really feel that it's necessary this year to provide these as an option to your students, to districts. But please keep an eye out for the usual communication channels. We will be providing more information in the near future. Okay, as I mentioned too, the first slide, at least the first slide that I did, there are 3 assessments that can currently be administered at this moment. The first one is the CTAS, the alternate science assessment in grades 5, 8, and 11. The next assessment is the CPFA, the Connecticut Physical Fitness Assessment, which is at 4, 6, 8, and once in high school, and then the KEI, which is in kindergarten. So is there special guidance in relation to these? These can be administered, and again, I emphasize can be administered. You don't necessarily have to go out and administer CTAS today or CPFA today, but is there any guidance related to these? So first off, for CTAS, and again, the first thing is while administering the assessment, please make sure that all safety protocols, COVID safety protocols, are thoroughly followed. The health of your students, the health of your staff, the health of your communities is the #1 priority in terms of guidance at this point. Additionally, the CSDE is also recommending that CTAS be administered in a school environment. So this is because of the complexity of the test, the need sometimes for accommodations for students. It also is because trained test administrators have to administer the test. It's not a simple process. However, you can, I want to emphasize, can administer the test now. And you would simply enter your scores on the score worksheet, and then enter your scores into the DEI system from March 29th to June 4th, the testing window for the CTAS, well, the entry window for CTAS. Then in a case where a student is fully remote, it would be possible to administer the test only if a trained teacher is available in person to administer the one-on-one test. Again, this would be only an in-person. This is you are not mandated to do this. This is just an option if you would like to provide this for students who are remote learners. When we issued this guidance, we immediately had questions about the CTAA. Remember, the CTAA is a test that's administered during the standard testing window from March 29th to June 5th. We will be providing some guidance soon about CTAA administration during the testing window. Next thing is CPFA, so the Connecticut Physical Fitness Assessment. Once again, I said it on the last slide, safety is the most important thing, safety of your students, staff, and community. If that can be accomplished, we are then recommending that the CPFA only be administered in a school environment. We're not recommending a home assessment. A couple things about this in relation to this recommendation. Keep in mind that high school kids can be assessed in any grade for the CPFA. So from 9th to 12th grade, that is fine. It's not any specific year. Keep also in mind that you can administer the test. You can wait to the spring. That's fine. It doesn't need to be administered now. And the final thing we wanted to stress is that we have received questions about sort of the proper location of test administration for the CPFA. For instance, the question is, my gym is being used for other purposes during these times. We do not dictate specific locations in which the test can be administered, so keep that in mind too. And then finally, I do want to emphasize that we will be next week, October 28th, Wednesday at 11 o'clock, we will be hosting a webinar that's part of this PMF series that addresses some best practices in terms of administering the CPFA. We will be joined, we have some special guests from our districts, Tracy Stefano from East Hartford, Joe Gorman from Waterbury, and Chris Wayner from Westport, all educators in the health and PE world and supervisors in their districts. They will be joining us to provide some best practices. So please join that webinar if you are particularly interested in that assessment. And then finally, KEI. That's the kindergarten assessment. Again, safety, number 1, no question about it. And then unlike the CTOS and the CPFA, where remote is not recommended, the KEI can utilize a remote administration. This is really because for CPFA and for CTOS, the complexity of these assessments, the difficulty to administer them, makes it a challenge to do it remotely. However, with the KEI, since it's really more of a checklist, we are not, or an at-home administration can be used. Also, we're particularly interested, given the changes this year in the last 6 months in the performance of the students. This is a critical assessment that all students be measured in this particular year. If at-home administration has to be used, that can be used. Okay, so I've covered some of the remote admin possibilities. Again, it's evolving. Please keep an eye on your normal communication channels from us, whether it's the Student Assessment News, whether it's the Performance Matters newsletter. Whatever the case is, as this evolves, we'll be providing more information. We obviously have our trainings and so forth, for starting with the ELAC trainings in November, and then for other summative assessment trainings in the beginning of the year. We will be providing more information on the remote proctoring possibilities. And then in terms of these special circumstances for these 3 particular assessments, KEI and CTOS, and the Connecticut Physical Fitness Assessment, hopefully this provides you a little more information in terms of if you're planning to go out and administer these assessments like today or tomorrow. Okay, Ajit, hopefully you're still on there. I'm gonna turn things back over to you, and you can take us home in terms of the presentation. I think we're a little bit over, so sorry for going on a little bit too much here, but we have.
No, I don't think it's you, it was me. So you did great. Thank you, Abe. So we'll wrap up here by just pointing to some of the resources that we've put out. I already referenced the sensible assessment practices. Our friends from academics have put out a lot of guidance around reimagining classrooms, and that one of those resources is listed here. I know there's others that they've put out as well. And also the early indication tool for teachers that the EdSite team put out, that actually includes our best efforts at, quote, predicting smarter balanced scores for students last year who were in grades 3 through 7. And those are also part of EdSite Secure, available to you as part of the EIT for Teachers report. So just want to mention a few. There are many others, but that's just a few of those. If we could go to the next slide, Abe. Abe's already referenced the newsletters. Please feel free to read those, subscribe to those. If you need to be added to the list, let us know. We're sending all of these to all our multiple lists, so please pardon us if you're totally plugged in and you're getting it 3 times from us. So please excuse us. We're trying to over communicate, especially in this time frame. And I think that actually brings us to the end of our presentation part. I have now enabled the raise hand feature in the control panel, in your GoToWebinar control panel. So you should be able to raise a hand, and we'll pause a moment here to let folks to raise their hand. If you have a question, we will call on you. We will unmute your line so that you can orally state your question, and we can hear from you directly. So please look for the raise hand feature, and we will get going momentarily. right. Here we go. The first person I'll call on is Tamara Gloster. Hi, Tamara. Could you unmute yourself and state your question? There you go.
Okay. My question is, where you state for those students who are learning remotely and cannot attend an administration in school or in a district setting, what qualifies for not attend? Just for, I think I just need some clarity just around like, is it okay for, let's say if a parent says, you know, I don't feel safe that my child is in school, would that be acceptable? Thanks.
And you're asking, Tamara, about using the remote administration option, correct?
Correct.
Yes, that would, that seems reasonable. The reason why we have the 3-tier approach that Abe had was to recommend the in-person administration as much as possible, even for those fully remote students who feel okay coming in to take the assessment, that you're able to schedule maybe in a large room where there's very few kids with adequate spacing, that we want to sort of suggest the in-person administration as the primary default option, if you will, just because we're trying to minimize the number of students who take it in a fully remote setting, partly from a comparability standpoint, studies that we know we will have to do later in the year when we get ready to release these scores, because the ideal scenario would be for us to have some remote administration, and the data show that the remote administration are comparable to in-person administration, and that we release the scores you know, interchangeably, if you will. So that's why we're recommending in-person administration as the default wherever possible. But if there are situations where it is just not possible, family has health concerns, doesn't want to have the kid come in, then remote option is definitely on the table for them. The next person I'll call on is Miriam Young. Hi, Miriam. Please unmute and state your question. Miriam, it looks like you have muted yourself, so just if you could just hit that microphone icon. There you go.
Oh, there. Sorry.
No worries.
Thank you for having this webinar. And my question is in reference to last links. You mentioned that last links will be proctored remotely, and that it probably will not be available starting the January 1st or January 4th, and that it would be later towards the back end. Do you have an idea how far back end?
Yeah. Ajit, I'll take that one. Yeah, thank you, Miriam, for the question. At the moment, we don't have a hard date. We're working with our partners, DRC, to establish a realistic timeline. But the thinking is right now that there's an initial in-person administration, and then there would be this opportunity towards the back end for the remote administration. There's a lot of kind of variables at play, but I'm hesitant to name a date or settle on a particular timeline, because we're really just beginning to be completely honest. We're exploring these timelines now. We're working hard with DRC to sort of find the best options. We promise to communicate to you guys. We've been at Capel. We've been talking to many of the leaders in the English learner community to try to get advice, and as soon as we know, we will communicate with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from Bob Janes. Go ahead, Bob.
Sure, thanks, Ajit. It's kind of a two-part question about SAT. So first, for school year 21 coming up, spring administration of the SAT school day, is there just the two options kind of, and not the three options that's available for Smart or Balanced? right? So an in-person, and then for students enrolling in person, then an in-person one for that day, similar to what we did in the fall just now. And the second part is also with the SAT. I remember seeing, I think it was in a footnote, a memo that came out last year, talk about having the SAT be on the computer for school year 22. Just seeing if that's still happening, if that factors into this year at all. So general administration for SAT.
I got that one at you too, if you want. Yeah, Bob, thank you. Thanks for asking that question, actually, because that's an excellent question. So in terms of SAT, I had that slide with sort of the hierarchy of the 3 options. That doesn't pertain to SAT. I probably should have added an asterisk for that. It's a paper administration in the district, simply put. Nothing changed. Nothing has changed from the last the way we've done business. In terms of your plan to do it in school, just like the fall administration. In terms of your second question, yes, we still are planning to do this has nothing to do with remote learning, but a online administration for 22. We're still exploring that. It's actually more than exploration. We are planning to implement that in 22. Thank you.
Thanks.
The next question is from Stephen Autieri. Go ahead, Stephen.
Good morning, Ajit. Good morning, Abe. Thank you so much for all of your continued support and service to the districts in Connecticut. Abe, I believe this question probably will be directed towards you. In terms of the CTOS, are districts continuing to utilize the materials that were made available during the spring 2020 administration?
Yeah, the idea with the CTOS is really that the materials are not replenished on a yearly basis. In the event that you really need something, you can certainly contact us. We have an extremely short supply, but like the idea is that it's essentially recycled year after year. And I know Janet Stuck and Deirdre Ducharme, our colleagues who work in special pops, have tried to promote that idea that that's not things you want to throw away. You want to try to make the best use of them over the long term. If you need something though, just drop me an email and I'll try to help you out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. The next question is from Raymond Manka.
Thanks, Ajit. Thanks, Abe. Yeah, so I actually have 3 quick questions. I was just looking back at the invitation. Was this presentation provided for us either in a Google folder or in a link so I could share this with my administrative team?
No, it wasn't. And I'm having I'm not finding a way to upload it here. So, and obviously there are many others who registered who are not in attendance today. So we will just follow up and email this right after the session.
Okay, that'd be great. And secondly, I noticed that tomorrow's webinar is specifically about duly identified students, SPED and L. Is that in relation to modifications or accommodations for the assessments, or is this just a webinar in general in regards to those students?
Abe, do you know about that webinar?
I'm sorry, I was looking for the PowerPoint.
No worries. No worries.
So
the webinar on duly identified students that is scheduled for tomorrow, is that particular to assessment and accommodations type thing, or is it a broader session? I think it's a more broader session about those students than something focused just on assessment accommodations, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah, it's not just assessment focused. It's in general about those duly identified students. Yep.
Okay.
And I stand corrected too, Raymond. Is my folks tell me that the handout is available for download in the GoToWebinar. And Abe, is there a way to just walk people through how to get it?
You should be able to see it under handouts there. It's under, and the file name is Assessment and Accountability for 2020-21.
Okay, I'll search for that.
Yeah.
And then just my final question was, assuming that there's going to be no accountability report provided from the state to the school districts, working under the assumption then that based on families that would not send their students for only in-school administration, we wouldn't have to be wed to the participation rates then, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the way participation rates play in our accountability system, you know, has to do, at least in Connecticut, with school classification. And so I don't want to say that participation is not important. Obviously, participation is absolutely important if we're going to commit to all students and being able to know, like any other year, with how well we're doing. So participation remains important from the standpoint of the validity of the inferences we can make about how a school or district or how a set of students did in a particular assessment in a particular year. So participation remains important. If we don't do formal accountability, and just to sort of state that clearly, if we still need permission from the feds to do this, and I'm, we remain hopeful and will continue to advocate. But if we don't do formal accountability, then yes, part of that would be that we would be advocating for no new school classifications in 2021 based on 2021 data. And so the impact of the participation rate on school classifications wouldn't, quote, come into play, if you will. But in order for us to be able to make legitimate inferences from our tests, we absolutely need good participation, and good participation from our remote students as well. As even, come spring, if we still have a whole bunch of fully remote students, it's important that we have participation from them, because we don't want our scores to be biased, if you will, in some way based on just those who are coming to buildings.
Sure, I understand. Okay, thank you. Sorry for the 3 questions. Any administrators?
No,
Yeah,
no, not at all. Very much appreciate the questions. Thank you. The next question comes from Marie McPadden. Go ahead, Marie. Marie, we don't hear you, and I see that you are unmuted. Okay, we will come back to Marie. The next question is Andrea May, I think it is, or I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your last name. Please go ahead. Abe, you can hear me, right?
I sure can.
Okay. Andrea, you're unmuted. Oh, I think you just muted yourself. Oh, there you go. We're still not hearing you. Okay. We will come back to you, Andrea, as well. Let me move to Melissa Ross. And Melissa, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your time this morning and this information. My original question was that of Tamra's, of what constitutes cannot attend. But as a follow-up just to what you had shared, of course, our district will encourage and recommend in-person assessment for those students that are virtual or remote. But how, is there any way, I guess I'm wondering, to be able to code the administration site for a child so that we could disaggregate that data separate from, district maintaining a record to look at that on our own?
That's an excellent question. And I don't know, Abe, if you have a solid baked answer, or if we need to go back and discuss this. I do expect that, I know that for any remote administration that happens, we will have a remote proctoring system, if you will, that will have different types of administration oversight, test security protocols in place. So it'll happen by definition through a different sort of part of the test administration system. So I would expect, Melissa, that the tracking of that will happen by default, if you will. But you're asking a follow-up question, which is, yes, if we track it, will you also be able to disaggregate those results based on that administration protocol method? And I'm not entirely sure, but technically it should be doable. Not sure if it's doable right at this moment, but Abe, let me turn it to you.
Yeah, good question. It's an interesting one. So we're planning on, at the moment, I know in our data files, there is a flag that's going to say Ajit, home, Abe, school. So we will know who's where. I think knowing that this is an interest to the field, I've jotted it down and I've seen our vendor. I'm not promising it, at least on the CAA reporting side. And on our EdSite side, we would have to actually ingest the data, and we'd have to do some work on our side too. But I will talk with CAI, and they do some magical stuff with the reporting. So I can't guarantee it, but it's on my list of to-dos for today. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Sure, thanks, Melissa. The next question I have is Tracy Purcell. Tracy, there you go.
Thank you. Just to let you know, from our end, there's a GoToWebinar control panel, and that's where I found the handouts, one for assessment accountability. That may help other viewers, and then I was able to download it. But I wanted to ask a very specific question regarding the kindergarten inventory. I anticipate some questions from our kindergarten teachers regarding remote students. I think that the challenge will be in terms of the personal social skills domain, and whether they could really rate those skills given the 3 ratings, and whether you have any suggestions in terms of maybe non-applicable options or anything in that regard.
That's a really good question. I am going to want to discuss that offline after this call and get back to you and the entire community about it. I think that's a really good question. I want to make sure we give guidance that allows for that to occur, or at least something to happen, some type of response to be submitted as part of the data for this cycle. That's a really good question. I don't have a pat answer, but I'd want to go back and look at the rubric, the rating rubric itself, and then see if there's any guidance that we could provide in terms of those remote students as it pertains to that particular one of those 6 domains, the personal social one.
Thank you.
No, it's good, very good question. Thank you, Tracy. Appreciate it. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to try Marie McPadden again. Hi, Marie, are you there? Marie, I'm not able to hear you. You're muted. You muted yourself now. You're unmuted now, but for some reason we're not able to hear you. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what's going on. If you wish to submit, maybe Marie, if you don't mind just emailing us separately, and we'd be absolutely happy to get back to you with your question. Abe, you don't hear Marie either, right?
I don't. Marie, if you want, just email me and I'll represent your question if you want here.
Oh yeah, you could. That still works. You could just email. I don't have any other questions here, Abe. So, oh, one more from Andrea just came in. Let's try again. Andrea, you're self-muted, so if you could just hit the, there you go. But we're not able to hear you, Andrea. I'm going to actually enable the Q&A feature, and you should see a question box now show up in the in your controls, if you will. And if you want to submit a question through that, we could take that as well, actually. And we'll give a moment for that question to come in. I'm sorry, Marie and Andrea, that we are not able to get your audio in, but I think we have a question. All right. Andrea's question is around the IABs. Given the circumstances around testing, is there a number of IABs you're recommending, and if so, which ones? You know, there's not a specific number per se. The IABs, as you know, are, and the focused IABs, I should mention, you know, in total, there are actually 149 of these assessments when you actually add them up, 3 through 8 or 2 through 8, because you can downgrade the grade 3. There are 149 IABs and focused IABs available. So it's less about quantity, if you will, and more about alignment to the curriculum. So I see the grade 3 through 5 question as well, Andrea. So thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, to me, it's still about you know, what makes the most sense from a curriculum standpoint. Obviously, the IABs cover the full gamut of the standards. I'm not going to suggest over testing, but if you have other assessments that you're administering that are not giving you the kind of actionable information, then perhaps if you don't use those, I would say, you know, use as many of the IABs as possible. I think they not only expose the student to the types of questions and expectations that are built into the standard, but they also will make that clear to the teacher as well in terms of what the standards are expecting and what they should be teaching. So you know, I don't have a specific which ones to give particularly. I'm not the content expert, so I could, you know, if you needed to talk to a content expert on this, I can suggest Christy Alberino in our office, or Joanne White in academics, and on the math side, Jen Michalak would be a great person to connect with this as well. So I would definitely suggest connecting with them. We did do research on this, and it seems like you know, just doing one assessment, one IAB, I don't think represents a sort of a meaningful connection in the curriculum. Whereas if you do multiple IABs, then at least in the data that we're seeing from 18-19, that was kind of indicative of perhaps a more systemic integration of curriculum to assessment at a district level. And we saw students showing greater overall scale score gains, if you will. So, and that report is on our website as well. Marie's question, the the physical fitness webinar, that webinar is in the flyer that contains the Performance Matters webinar series. That webinar is listed in there, and you can register for that. That webinar has also drawn very good response so far. More than 200 people registered for that, but that's also as included in that webinar series flyer, and we can mention that as well. We can circulate that as well. And there's another question now that we've opened up the Q&A. There's another question that came in, and Abe, I'll defer this one to you. I don't know if you're seeing the question, but I'll read it out. In order to give an off-level IAB, do we still need to individually assign off-level access to each student, or can it be done for a whole class at once?
Yeah, so good question. Thank you for asking. I can't see it, but I'll certainly take it that way. In order to, there used to be, you used to have to like hard enter the grade in terms of, well, your interim grade was established by your PSIS standing. Now, basically, we've taken that lift off, so you can administer, you don't have to go in and enter like, say Ajit's a grade 5 student, we want to administer a grade 7 student. Those are immediately available to Ajit. You don't need to go and do anything in Tide. It's open season. Essentially, you'll get a drop down and you can just bing, bing, bing and open up a test session with really whatever, and kids without this extra step in the past. I think that addressed. I want to throw in one more piece of information just to kind of add to what the question that came up earlier. One of my colleagues, one of our colleagues emailed me in terms of follow-up. The CTOS information, the CTOS materials, those were shipped out. Those are out there. They're also available online. It's a semi-secure test, so you'll see it online. You can go to the Connecticut Comprehensive Portal and download it there too. So just that point of clarification, and thank you for alerting us.
Thanks, Abe. And I also put a link to the, I also put in the chat a link to the Performance Matters 2020 webinar series flyer. So if you're looking to register for any of the other webinar series, webinars in this series, you can, that flyer will contains the registration link as well. I don't see any other hands raised, and I don't see any other questions. So, Abe, did you have anything else you wanted to mention or raise before we close?
Yeah, I do. Thanks. I just wanted to mention that in terms of the remote proctoring, we're working hard. It's a new system. I've been in the office for many years in assessment, and I remember the challenges we've had over the years. Like one of the most recent ones was going all online when we did the smarter field test in 14, and then the live administration the next year. And that transition from paper to online. I don't want to equate the remote proctoring as the same jump, but it's still a big jump, and we're working hard. We realize it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some challenges, but we also believe that it's incumbent upon us in our office to try to find a solution for this. So watch out for more details, and we're working hard. It's a tough riddle to solve, but I think we're close to having something for the spring administration.
Another question did come in, Linda Parsons. Linda, I'm going to try to unmute you. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. There you go.
I raised my hand by mistake.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Anything else, Abe?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yes, will the recording of this webinar be automatically sent to us? I don't know if it's automatic, but like I said, what we'll do is once the session ends and the recording is available, we'll actually email it to everybody who registered, just in case those who couldn't attend live, they will also get the recording, and of course we'll disseminate it broadly as well. So even if you didn't register, you could still go and listen to the recording. So with this, I'll bring this webinar to a close. I want to thank you for making the time to join us. You know, like I said at the beginning, you are amazing folks to navigate this world in this crazy world, and open our schools and welcome our students back and provide them with awesome instruction and engaging instruction and the community that they so desperately need to feel healthy mentally and physically, and be ready to learn. So we really appreciate and applaud everything you're doing. Thank you so much, and be safe, be well, and we will continue to be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.